What's up? So we got Arrow Season 1, Episode 9, Year's End. So I'm in my dad's office for this video. Obviously, it's my dad's office. So I'm not old enough to have an office. So anyway, this episode starts off with the return of everyone's least favorite guy, Adam Hunt, remember him from Season 1, Episode 1. And he's talking to some guy when he thinks he sees Oliver show up, but it's not Oliver. And this mysterious archer kills Adam Hunt. So Oliver and Dig are training when Dig mentions how this episode is a Christmas episode, even though we're not Christmas. We're still a bit in Christmas, but we're not in the Christmas season anymore. But Dig mentions about how it's a Christmas episode, and Oliver mentions about how his Christmas used to go, but when he was on the island, there was no Christmas on the island. There was no Christmas on the island. It was just how you survive. And then Dig's like, hey, you know how Oliver is on the good list. Go home, Oliver. So Oliver goes home to discover that his family no longer celebrates Christmas. And so Oliver goes and so Oliver discovers that his family doesn't celebrate Christmas. So he and Thea go out and we meet a guy that kind of reminds me of James from Big Time Rush with his hair, and his name is Shane. He kind of looks like pre-2010 James Maslow. And so Oliver kind of judges the guy that Thea's into, but Thea's like, you barely know this guy, so can they just talk about, he's like, hey, you were talking about how they don't celebrate Christmas. And he was like, after they just disappeared, after Oliver and Robert disappeared, they just skipped Christmas that year and just skipped Christmas every day since. So Oliver's like, oh yeah, we see Quentin taking then we see the commissioner talking about how the police are great, but we all know they're not. And Oliver's like, so Malcolm's like, Oliver's like, hey, we need a better name. The Hood needs a better, the vigilante needs a better name than the Hood guy. And then Malcolm's like, Green Arrow. And Oliver's like, yeah, that's lame. Oh, I love that. I love how he says it's lame. So even though it's his name, he's like lame to name it, to him being called Green Arrow. So they get called about Adam Hunt being struck. How they think the Hood put an arrow in Adam Hunt, but then Quentin's like, hey, that's when the daughter showed up, found Dad, and Adam Hunt had a daughter. Okay, and she found him, and he's like, so the Hood struck it again. And Quentin's like, hold up, why would the Hood took like $1 million from Adam Hunt? Why just randomly kill him off now? They're dealing with a copycat. So he talks to Diggle about how the copycat was like a legitimate archer. And he's like, what do you do when you're dealing with a copycat? Call a cop. So Quentin gets a random phone where he gets a call from the Hood. Yeah, he gets a random phone, and Quentin just, even though it says blocked, Quentin hits accept, because of course he does. He doesn't say, oh, this is a blocked number. Should I not trust this? He's just like, Lance. And then he's like, ugh. And when he says, detective, he's like, oh, you. And it's just like, come on, Quentin. couldn't you discover that this was a fake? Like, this was a block number? Like, I wouldn't try the block number. So, yeah. So then we see so then we see Oliver tell his family about how he wants to have Christmas again, and he's like, "You really?" And he's like, "You really?" And he's like, "That's a good idea, Oliver." So then we see a flashback to the island. Haven't seen those since episode 6 or 5 or 6, because the 2 Helena episodes skipped over the flashback. So we see Oliver in the cave, and Yao Fei brings in Fires, and Oliver's like, hey, he and his men tortured him. He would have killed him if he had shown up. And Yao Fei's like, you kill him. He has a way of you off this island. So they take him there, and Yao Fei starts explaining about how Yao Fei and some guy, I think it was Yao Fei or someone else, and the Deathstroke guy were on his crew, and Oliver doesn't want to hear this. So then the Deathstroke guy shows up, fights Yao Fei, but then Oliver runs away as Yao Fei gets captured. So then we see, so at the party, Felicity called Walter. Yeah, Felicity called Walter, and Felicity was yeah, one of your Queen Consolidated employees, he's on the list. He may get an internet stalking because he's on the list. So Walter talks to this guy. I just watched the episode and I already forgot this guy's name because he's a 1 episode character, so it doesn't matter. So this guy just shows up. He's like, why would this hood guy be after him? And he's like, I don't know. It's for you to find out. So yeah. So anyway, then the hood attacks another guy that Oliver took money from for them. But then when Quentin's like, so the commissioner's like, hey, capture one of the, so hey, we can have the media blame this on the hood. We can have the media think this is the hood's fault. And then he's like, hey, like, one of these, you want me to ignore a serial killer? And he said, capture one of these hood nut jobs. I don't care which one. He's like, I'm not gonna do that. You tell him, Quentin. And then the commissioner's like, then you're off this case, Sergeant. Get out of here. So yeah. So Quentin calls the hood, and he's like, hey, Aerocycle, you have till the end of Christmas to catch this guy, even though it's already the end of Christmas. But took a break to, but anyway, wait, you have till the end of Christmas to catch this guy, and then after that, I'm coming after you, no matter which guy it is, I'm coming after you, Hood. So the Hood gets, Oliver accidentally sees Thea attempting to sleep with Shane, and then Thea's like, hey, the reason why she want to do all this is because she wanted to, 9 minutes. Okay, the reason why she didn't want to do all this is because she didn't want to relive the past. And he's like, okay. And then Diggle calls, so then, because whoever this guy is, I'm gonna name him the Dark Archer. The Dark Archer, like, kidnaps people, and they're like, hey, like, like, he has hostages, and and the woman's like, reads away saying, like, if the Hood doesn't surrender himself to him, he will kill the hostage in the name of the Hood. So Oliver has to show up, fight the Dark Archer, and and he's like, and he Oliver gets his butt kicked. Like Oliver gets his ass or butt kicked. Like this was a really cool fight. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, the author of the book wants you dead. And he's like, Adam Hunt, the other guy, what was his name? Viz? Viz something. He was like, the guy wants, the author of the book wants you dead. They call you the Hood, but let's see what you look without it. But obviously, was like, get out of there. Get out of there. So yeah, Moira, who is obviously the worst character in the entire show, he's like, hey, I told you to stay out of this, Walter. I told you to stop investigating this. And he's like, come on, do you really think I'm gonna stop investigating the murder of his best friend Robert? Which is very viable. This Robert Queen was like this dude's best friend. You think he's just gonna let it go and stop investigating it? So yeah. So he's like, what do they have against you? Like, what? She's like, I'm not. What do they have against you? She's like, I'm not with them. She is the people. She's the bad guy, or whatever she says, and she is the bad guys, and so yeah, so then as Walter's about to leave, he gets kidnapped, and the mother's like, "Is it done? It's done." And he's like, "Yeah." So then Oliver wakes up, and his family believes he was in some biking accident. So yeah, Sophia's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. What her mom said about you can't judge people for their past. You have to make them. You can't start judging for the. See, he wasn't like accepting him for the person he is now, and that's what he said to Sia, and Sia says how she's different after 5 years, and then also Laurel and Tommy scene, but I'm gonna about how Tommy gives Laurel a picture of her, Sarah, and Quentin, and Laurel says about how something about Oliver, and yeah. So then we get the reveal of the Dark Archer. The Dark Archer is Malcolm Merlyn, and it is really shocking. So Oliver talks about how when he confronts people, he tells them about how they failed the city. But he says tonight he failed, and then Diggle's like, Oliver, you got lunch, a bunch of people, you have the hostage to go home and spend Christmas with their families, and yeah, and he's like the book of the guy said the author of the list wants him dead or something. So anyway, that was this Christmas episode. It was an interesting one. We got the reveal of the bad guy. We got the first introduction of our main villain and the identity of our main villain. Our main villain is, which we already knew by the point before this episode, is Malcolm Merlyn. And I gotta say, Malcolm Merlyn is the good villain. He's a bad guy. You're meant to dislike him, and he's kind of a psychopath. But because he kind of just kidnapped Walter, and Moira seemed okay with. Moira just seemed like she wasn't sad or anything. As the next scene, she was like, "Oh no, you just kidnapped my set." Yeah, she was just like, the deed is done or something, and so yeah. So after all the Helena stuff that we went through last episode with the whole Helena Bertinelli, she leaving, and yeah. So yeah, after all the Helena stuff, we just, it's just an okay episode. Now we just translate into filler. Oh boy. I can't skip this filler because if I skip it, I can skip anime filler, but now we just go in to the one-off villains of the week. Again, Helena is a recurring character Malcolm Merlin is the main villain, but the rest of the Rose Gallery in this season are just one-sided villains. Like, why did they need one-sided villains? Like, I guess they needed people to be on that list for Oliver to take down. But anyway, that's it. I'll see you next time for some more Arrow.